Nice to see you.
All right. So, welcome everyone. I am Bante Warapanyo, and I will be your host, the facilitator for this evening's event. The title of our practice together today is a couple working titles, but The Way of Zen Solving an Inherently Empty Dilemma. So, I'm sure something that's on the tip of everyone's tongue, one way or another, is a dilemma in life. There is some suffering, there is some depression, there is some anxiety, there is some fear, there is some complicated thinking, there's some negativity, there's some weakness, there's some doubt about our capacity to continue on the path. There's some doubt about our capacity to live a workable life, right? To heal and to transform our suffering and to become more free each day. So, the purpose of this event is kind of a scoot your boot reminder. Okay. Um, I'm sure many times people have found themselves in, I find myself in this situation where it's, I don't know, it's difficult to get out of bed. And even though the whole world is kind of open for me, maybe I have a free day or I have free time, I just feel stuck in this swamp of my self fixated thinking, my complicated thinking, my worry, my tiredness, my depression, whatever it might be. And I need something, to come along and say, hey, scoot your boot. Let's get going. Let's get moving. Let's get on the path. Let's step on the path together. And my need for that is why I became a monk, so that I can have a lot of scoot your boot moments in my life to kind of step in and get involved with my life. Uh, I have found many times that complicated thinking, that depression, that anxiety, that feeling of weakness kind of overwhelms me, and I believe in it. And I kind of take refuge in that tiredness, or I take refuge in that anxiety, take refuge in that depression. I trust in it. This is not a place, and this is not a moment to trust in any kind of self fixated view about me, about someone else, about good things, about bad things. We want to win the lottery and become superheroes. Well, also, even if that might happen in a few moments, don't concern yourself with that. It's not important. Whatever great thing might happen. So this is a time to abandon fully together. We abandon whatever story that we tell ourselves. We abandon whatever we hope will come out of this experience. Just abandon, 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 give up, and also to offer out, right? To not just to consolidate our attention and our energy internally, but actually to open up and to offer out whatever it is that we are holding on to or stuck on. Give out, release. So this is an interesting way of practice because it puts us in this place of independence regardless of conditions. And actually, we abandon conditions. We abandon the story of a self, of a someone, of a something, of some time, some place. Fully abandon. So, fully refresh, fully restart, fully begin again at this moment. So, for those people who are more new to this kind of practice or this way of being, so what do? How do you figure that out? Well, if you're able to stay in the space, if you're able to listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth, all you need to do is breathe. Okay? All you need to do is see. All you need to do is hear. And whenever that kind of complicated thinking comes up, or uh, like relying on some experience in the body or some experience in the mind begins to, you get involved, you get attached to something, you come back to the breathing, not in a way to focus or attach to the breathing, but actually you come back to the breathing as this way of releasing, this way of offering out, this way of refreshing and restarting, so that you are establishing this home base of breathing, this home base of awareness. But you're also not fixating or getting attached to the breathing, the way of breathing, the kind of breathing. So, geez, it's really, at least how I approach it, it's very convenient for me to be here sharing, because you don't need to understand anything that I say. It doesn't need to make sense. You don't need to grasp onto anything. You don't need to understand anything. You don't need to figure anything out. You don't need to make any progress. Breathing, releasing, aware.
So in my dream, God and Buddha and mixed in something, and another thing, um, mem- the memory, uh, I can't say it out loud, but in my song, a dream is something alive about.
Okay. Thank you, Stephanie. So, whatever it is that we are dreaming about and getting grasping onto, that is what is to be offered out, to released. So, every point of fixation, every point of grasping is a point of releasing. Now, if you could really apply this, I just think for myself, if I could really apply this, then every time when I have difficulty waking up, when I feel depressed, when I feel anxious, something like that, when the bed is just this swamp of self-fixation, okay, then I can be aware of that, and that can be a starting point, not for coming up with all these ideas about myself and my life, but actually for releasing, for restarting, for refreshing, for beginning again, for getting out of bed. But that doesn't need to be this will of force of someone. I'm going to force myself out of bed. I'm going to do this. I'm going to fight. Rather, to abandon and to offer out. Not to be stuck in this sense of dreaming, this sense of someone or some place or some time. So you can focus on your breathing. That's an entry point. That's a reminding point. That's an abandoning point. Your awareness of your breathing happening right now is a point of abandoning, of giving up, of letting go. Okay? You can also rub your fingers together.
All right, I'll try. Thank you,
Okay.
Fante.
Yeah. More and more as we get involved with the path, then there is a greater and greater capacity to abandon, to be free from our attachment to being a woman, being a man, being non binary. Okay. Being now, it's not to reject any of that. We all have attachments, we all like certain things, but it's our capacity to release ourselves from the burden of carrying that around with us. Okay. So that this contemplative, questioning, curious way of being kind of shows up. And it shows up in a way for me that I want to offer my attention to a child or someone that I love very much, maybe a cat, a kitten, a puppy, or something like that. Who cares if I'm depressed or I'm anxious or I have this whole, traumas and stories about myself and my life and all that? All that is completely okay to be abandoned in just embracing that child, embracing that kitten, just showing up there, just being there. And there is something curious about it, how we have a capacity to do that. We have a capacity to fully enter into this present moment experiencing that releases us, or just releases, offers out, abandons anything that can be grasped onto. And actually, there's nothing that can be grasped onto. Just like you try to get a hold of a handful of water. No, it's not going to work. Even in space, it's not going to work. Everything's tipsy turvy up there. You still can't grab onto water. It's like to become blind and to accept it at that moment, right? And how do we usually deal with, or how do we imagine that we would deal with becoming blind, losing our sight? Well, I know it's not going to be taken lightly, right? But it is something that's going to happen immediately and not necessarily something you can do so much about. And it's very possible to happen. The reason we have two eyes is not because they're made out of steel, because they're very vulnerable and they're very important, right? So to be aware in such a way where we lose our vision, we lose our eyes, okay? We lose our capacity to see, and yet we are free. Oh, I can't see anymore. Oh, I don't necessarily know where I am anymore. It's unsolid. The ground is not solid. And yet there is this solidity in not grasping. There is this solidity in offering out all of that. What's happening? What's going, cha 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 cha. Offering out, letting go, abandoning. So this is a really special time um, because we're going to be looking at some teachings today in this realm of Zen Buddhism from a great Zen master, truly a great Zen master, Hsing Yun. Xing Yun. And he has a book that I'm very fond of called Being Good. And he's this original proponent, or one of the original proponents of humanistic Buddhism, I believe. Um, which is to, yeah, that's right, to emphasize be this quality of goodness, how we give our energy not to our desires, our fears, our complicated thinking, our status, our wealth, what have you, but we give our intentionality, and all these kinds of things are going to come up or get involved with being good or not being good, right? You're going to find yourself in different positions. But it's that intentionality of being good and feeding that and acting out on that, so that's the primary like directing factor. Okay. And we're going to touch some very deep Zen teachings or Chan teachings that relate to the truth, the ultimate truth, in very kind of accessible ways, and we'll open it up for people to ask questions and to to see where they're at, and if there's anything that stands out to them that they can make use of as we go through some of these teachings, some of these short stories about the Zen masters of the past and how we can learn from them, we can make use of their teachings. But first of all, let's stop together. So find your meditation position, find comfortable place for your body, comfortable and stable position for your body. And I'm going to invite the sound of a bell. And as we hear that sound of the bell, we are invited to, you may not be skillful in meditation. You may not be skillful in your relationship with the present moment or with the truth or something like that. So in this case, don't be discouraged by that, but rather allow the bell to be an invitation to your sincerity, to your willingness to show up, your willingness to be here. And where is being here? It's not necessarily related to this call or this event, but it's related to what's here right now, and attending to that with your sincerity, with your presence, whatever, however that might be for you. But certainly, it's recommended that you breathe. So why not be aware of that? Why not enjoy that? If you don't breathe, it's going to be a difficult situation. Okay, let's listen to the sound of the bell together and come back to our sincerity to be here, tend to what's here right now, whatever that is for you. Okay, so we're going to start with our reading from the book by Zen Master Xing Yun. And the name of this book is Chan Heart, Chan Art. And Chan is the original name for Zen. So when we hear this word Chan, it's referring to Zen Buddhism, specifically from China. And this is a school of Buddhism that is primarily concerned with, we can say, the awakening now, enlightenment now, seeing the truth now, being free from self fixation now, fully and completely. And these teachings will be um, in that line. Through story. And there's a picture with each of these stories. So, how about we share that picture? That'll be a lot of fun, I think, to see one of these pictures. Everybody. Can you see this? So this is the emperor of China at that time, and then Bodhidharma, who is the founder of Zen. I know it's not the best way of seeing it, but that's what it is. This story is entitled No Merit at All. No merit at all. And this concept of merit is something that's very, very important in um, Buddhism, but in Asian culture as a whole. And the easiest way to sum it up or understand it, it's still something that I'm kind of working with my understanding of it. But merit is what you get from doing good deeds. So it's a basic principle. If you do good, if you do what you should do, you feel good. And if you don't do what you should do, or if you do what you shouldn't do, then you feel bad. You have suffering, you have difficulty, etc. So this merit is really fundamental to Buddhist practice. So we donate to the monks, we practice meditation, we build temples, we do all of these things because we want to make merit, the good effects from doing our good deeds. And one of the easiest ways to do good deeds is to be generous. And then in Buddhism, they say, oh, the generosity to the monks is like the highest merit, the highest merit making you can do from doing generosity. And this especially applies to kind of the upper class in certain Buddhist countries, but uh, in certain times in China, the monks work together with like the emperor. So a part of being the king of China was building temples, supporting monks, all of these kinds of things. And this story is entitled No Merit at All. So that's quite curious, right? No effect from doing good, and by extension, no effect from doing bad. Nothing staying still. Let's listen to this story. Emperor Wu of the Liang dynasty was a model ruler in Chinese history who supported Buddhism. When he was on the throne, he built numerous temples and erected a large number of Buddhist statues. He repaired and constructed bridges and roads for the welfare of the people. At that time, Chan Master Bodhidharma came from India to China to propagate the Dharma. Emperor Wu of Liang invited the Chan Master and asked him about the Dharma, saying, in the way that I have continually done good deeds, what merit will I gain? No merit at all, said Chan Master Bodhidharma, as though pouring a bucket of cold water on him. Emperor Wu was very unhappy to hear this, and then asked him why. The Chan master did not reply. In the end, because there was no meeting of the minds, he left with a flip of his sleeve. Okay, so this emperor, this king of China, invites this monk, this Zen master, to talk with him. It's very like a serious situation. It's very intense. We probably usually don't have this quality of intense social interactions in our lives. So the emperor said, what good effects, what's waiting for me on the other side, or what's coming to me because I've done all of these good things. I did, everything I felt that I should have done. And the Zen master says, no merit at all. You've gained nothing. You've accumulated nothing. And, then the emperor kind of says, why? What are you talking about? And the Zen master doesn't reply. And in the end, because there was no connection point there was no mutual mind to mind, the Zen master just flipped his sleeves and left that place. So a note here. In fact, how could Emperor Wu's good deeds have no merit at all? Does anyone have an idea? Why would the emperor, does all the good deeds not have any effect or any, kind of accumulation of good effects from doing those good deeds? Anybody?
Um, I think personally, I kind of interpret it more as you're doing something out of the goodness of your own heart and your own want to. The minute that you're seeking validation from it, it becomes more of a transaction of something that you're trying to get from someone. And I think that makes it in some way less good or less pure in its motivation. Um, I think that's kind of how I kind of understand it, maybe.
Anyone else? Let's go on with this note. And a few people expressed that way. A few people said, motivated by personal gain, or the emperor was in some way selfish, right? Self fixated in how the emperor did the generosity. Yeah, a lot of people are honing in on this. But what's the note here? The note from the Zen master. So so in fact, how could Emperor Wu's good deeds have no merit at all? No merit at all, which the Chan master spoke of, explains the Chan master's state of mind, so the enlightened state of mind. The concept of duality between existence and non existence in phenomena was not present. Okay, so the Zen master having a mind of neither good existing nor not existing. So there is no good or bad phenomena, there is no cause or effect. There's nothing to it, there's nothing inside of it. In that little black box that we've created for ourselves, in the Zen master's mind, he's seen that inside of that box, there's actually nothing. We just imagine that there is something in it that leads to a good effect, a bad effect, something to worry about, something to, enjoy, work ourselves up about in a positive or negative way. There's actually, that black box is actually empty fundamentally. So we just need to transcend our deluded attachment to this duality between existence and non existence. Only then can we see through the reality of all dharmas. So, how do we transcend our deluded attachment to something existing or not existing? This exists, I like it. This doesn't exist, I like it. So although there is an arising and passing away of phenomena of all kinds, and the passing away, right now, all kinds of things don't exist. You couldn't even begin to think about all of the things that don't exist right now. Isn't it right? And we can bring things up to come up into existence. But then there's all kinds of things that do exist right now. The body, feeling in the body, mental formations, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, feeling of touch. So we just need to transcend, to offer out, to release, to abandon our deluded attachment to this duality between existence and non-existence, giving so much importance to what's here right now or to what's not here right now. Only then can we see through the reality of all dharmas, which is there is non-existence, there is existence, there is non-existence, there is not existence, there may be existence, there may be non-existence, there is originally existence, there is originally non-existence. So all of these things are true, but they also negate each other. So they are like mutually negating, mutually abandoning all aspects of duality, but it's inclusive of all aspects as well. So it's not rejecting anything, but it is not defined by anything in particular, especially either existing or not existing. And this is a very kind of strange or curious state of mind for us as people who, operate in the world of mental experiences, physical experiences, and, if certain mental and physical experiences come up, we're in heaven. Certain mental and physical experiences come up, we're in a hellish kind of experience, right? So, in this perspective, seeing through the reality of all dharmas, so all dharmas being a way of seeing truly, seeing without discrimination. So we can truly see there is non-existence, there is existence, there is not non-existence, there is not existence, there may be existence, there may be non-existence, there is originally existence, there is originally non-existence. This is heavy, heavy stuff, but it's comforting and it's freeing, and it allows us to feel, for me at least, supported to abandon fully, to abandon deeply. If you don't understand completely, abandon. If you think you have some understanding about this, abandon it. Throw it in the trash. Both, throw it away, and let's continue with the reading. This kind of transcendence is the path that every Chan practitioner must take. This kind of state is the original face of the Zen practitioner. Although you do many good deeds, although you build temples and volunteer and take care as best as you can, so much, actually nothing is gained. Although you do the worst things in the world, you have been a cataclysm to our human society, to yourself and to those around you. Nothing is lost. You won't miss out on anything. Although you've spent ages, years and years in this kind of sludge of unskillful thinking and sensual desire and confusion, you are not established anywhere. You are not stuck anywhere. You are not fixed in any particular kind of way. So this realization, this kind of state, is the original face of the Chan practitioner, Zen practitioner. Okay, we're going to go to our next story, right? And let me show you a picture of the picture that's available for this next story. So we see kind of, oh, thing. We see this is once again maybe, yeah, this is Bodhidharma. Okay, this is the original Zen master, the original founder of Zen in China, meditating in a cave. And then this is his first disciple that's coming across to kind of learn from this Zen master, because this Hui Kei, this practitioner, heard about this monk Bodhidharma living in this cave for 7-9 years or something, just sitting still. So he went, he sought out support, and that's a major part of anyone's path. And if you really want to consider yourself to be a practitioner or to be a yogi or to be a Buddhist, it's a large part of it is that you are continuously going in the direction of support, to be supported on your path. What Buddhist temples are around me? What monks are around me? What meditation groups are around me? Okay, so that you're continuously to be supported, just in the same way that you have to continuously support yourself materially. So you call yourself a householder. Otherwise, you won't have a home. You won't have the resources that you need. You're continuously this job, that opportunity, that connection point, that resource, that investment, that property, whatever it might be. So you continue to get involved. And this is what Hui Kei started with. So this story is entitled Hui Kei's Settled Mind. This is from the first Zen master and the monk who went to learn from him. Chan Master Sheng Wang Hui Kei, traveling over mountains and valleys, arrived at Mount Song's Shaolin Temple to pay his respects to Patriarch Bodhidharma, founder of Zen. He requested instruction and also asked to be taken in as a disciple. All right, and this is what anyone on the path can do. You go to visit a Buddhist temple or something like that, someone seems to be really with it, you can request instruction, and if you're really have that mindset, you can request to be taken as a disciple. But don't just run around, anyone you find, will you be my teacher? No, it's more this is like a really established master. This is a great teacher. So Bodhidharma, facing the wall, sat in silent meditation and ignored him. All right? Maybe it's okay to be ignored. And even this great Zen master ignored this student. So Shengwan, therefore, stood outside the door waiting as the wind and snow blew everywhere. You can imagine a mountain, wind and snow. This disciple is staying outside of a cave to see the Zen master. Is very mystical. After a long time, the snow was so deep that it was up to his knees. Seeing that he was truly sincere in seeking the Dharma is like the truth, the deep truth teachings, the wisdom teachings that are not like spiritually materialistic, but they're about practices. They're about access to awareness itself, the mind itself, abandoning itself, transformation itself. It's not about 355 hertz or something like that. Okay, this is not the Dharma. This is more like something you can maybe work with or consume, but it's not so much about how to establish yourself in the truth. So, seeing that he was truly sincere in seeking the Dharma, Bodhidharma then asked, "You have been standing in the snow for a long time. What is it that you seek?" Shangwan said, "My only wish, Venerable, is that you open the gate of the sweet dew and universally liberate all beings." So to share out, to offer out, your presence, your wisdom. Bodhidharma said, "The supreme and wondrous way of the Buddhas, despite vast kalpas, so vast generations, eons, thousands of years, of dedication and diligence, being able to practice what is difficult to practice, being able to endure what is difficult to endure, still cannot be attained. You, sir, with your frivolous and arrogant heart, longing and hoping for the true vehicle, toil in vain." Okay, so a quick snippet about that is we want to grasp enlightenment. We want to consume enlightenment. This is a foolish endeavor. And it's the same thing that keeps us stuck in bed because it's that grasping, self fixated mindset. I want to get this. Abandon, offer out, free, release, now. No one to get it, no one to remove it, nothing to obfuscate it. There's no grasping necessary. Let me read that again. So, Shengwan said, this student, "My only wish, Venerable, is that you open the gate of the sweet dew and universally liberate all beings." Bodhidharma said, "The supreme and wondrous way of the Buddhas, despite vast eons of dedication and diligence, being able to practice what is difficult to practice, being able to endure what is difficult to endure, still cannot be attained, cannot be grasped. You cannot grasp it, period. Even eons, generations, thousands of years of diligent practice, 20, 40, 50, 60 years of enduring what is difficult to endure and practicing what is difficult to practice, even after that, still cannot be attained, cannot be grasped. You, sir, you, with your frivolous and arrogant heart, longing and hoping for the true vehicle, toil in vain." So Bodhidharma is saying you're just not going to get it with that mindset. Shengwan, hearing this encouraging instruction, it's actually a kind of encouragement. It's a compassion, right? We hear that, we say, "Oh, that's harsh. There's not being sweet." But actually, it's an encouragement. Shengwan, hearing this encouraging instruction, immediately cut off his arm with a knife in front of Bodhidharma. Okay, I don't want anybody doing that here on Discord. Oh my goodness, we do get some interesting characters here, but hopefully never that interesting. So, and you don't need to do that. Hui K already did that. You don't. If you did that, it wouldn't be authentic. So Bodhidharma said, "All Buddhas seeking the way for the sake of the Dharma disregard their physical form. Now that you have cut off your arm, what else are you seeking?" So PK did this as a Shengwan did this as a spontaneous show of their sincerity, of they're serious about this. And there's a lot of Zen stories about like someone like there's a Zen story about a master who always answered questions by holding up his finger. And then this young monk saw that and said, "Oh, I'm going to do that too. Whenever somebody asks me a question, I'm going to hold up my finger." It's a Zen answer. So eventually the Zen master and that novice monk came across each other, and the Zen master asked that novice a question, and the novice held up his finger. The Zen master cut off his finger. But then that novice became enlightened. That's a heck of a good deal. Right? That's a heck of a good deal. So, cutting off your arm is not too bad of a deal if it works out. but I still don't encourage it. And any of these Zen stories, you can't just like replicate it or try to do the same thing. You can nourish yourself from the sincerity and the quality and the heart that relates to it, but you can't mimic it or it's not authentic. So a lot of times Zen masters are doing, they're flipping over tables or something like that to show, this is the truth, but they beat you to it. So don't try to mimic it. Just it's that sincerity, that great faith, that great doubt to awaken, to be free, and to share that freedom with others. So Bodhidharma said after Huike cut off his arm with a knife to show his sincerity, Bodhidharma said, all Buddhas seeking the way for the sake of the Dharma disregard their physical form. They're not attached to their physical form. Now that you have cut off your arm, what else are you seeking? So Bodhidharma has said, Buddhas on the path disregard their physical form. You've clearly done that. So, what else do you want? What else are you seeking? And Huike answered, your disciple's mind is not yet settled. Please, patriarch, settle the mind for me. Bodhidharma shouted, bring forth the mind, I will settle it for you. Dumbfounded, Huike said, I cannot find the mind. Bodhidharma smiled and said, I have already settled the mind for you. So, the note from Zen Masters Xing Yun. Shengwang Huike was at the point of not finding. Then there was a turning around and entry. Finally, he had a clear and great awakening. Our afflictions are originally empty. Unwholesome karma has no intrinsic nature. So this is basically the bad effects from doing bad deeds. Okay? Your hangover has no intrinsic nature. The place where the mind attains the state of nirvana, where there are no delusions and no arising of thought, is supreme enlightenment. This is the Buddha way. If you are able to preserve a true mind of equanimity, your Buddha nature will be revealed at that moment. So what sticks out to me most clearly at this, and I find very interesting, is the first line of this commentary about Huike was at the point of not finding, not opening the fridge door, right? The point of not or opening. It's almost like you go to open the fridge door and then you're in awe and you're in a state of not knowing and wonderment. Okay, not finding. Then, so this point of not finding, not getting anything, not getting it, point of not finding. Then there was a turning around, so turning the mind around and an entry. So maybe this embodiment almost, at least for me, this embodiment of not finding, this actualization of not finding, this entry into the truth of not finding, not grasping. Finally, he had a clear and great awakening. And then the Zen master Xing Yun goes on to say, our afflictions are originally empty. Unwholesome karma has no intrinsic nature. The place where the mind attains the state of peace, where there are no delusions and no arising of thought, is supreme enlightenment. This is unique, right? This is a unique perspective Because for most of us, or a lot of the times, our idea of enlightenment is some big special experience. Okay, I'm going to become the Mark Zuckerberg of enlightenment, something like that, right? Wonderful, amazing, transcendent. But rather, here it says, the place where the mind attains the state of nirvana, where there are no delusions and no arising of thought, is supreme enlightenment. So, no complicated thinking, no self fixated thinking, and no arising of thought is supreme enlightenment. This is the Buddha way. If you are able to preserve a true mind of equanimity, your Buddha nature will be revealed at that moment. Equanimity. Any questions or comments about this story? And these are two of the most famous kind of original Zen stories of the history of Zen. So the way I can explain it or express it is a hangover. Okay, you go out, you drink a bunch, and you have a good time. Maybe you make some unskillful decisions, etc., etc. And now the next morning, there's not only a physical hangover, but there's also a mental hangover, right? You did what you shouldn't have done. You betrayed your own heart in some sense, or you just weren't very careful, very skillful, right? We've all been there. And then there might even be a social ramification related to that hangover. What this is saying is that all of those effects from those actions, those causes, are inherently transitory, empty. They're not actually fixed. And we experience that all the time. Or we experience the hangover like, oh my gosh, this is real. I'm going through it. I'm experiencing it. This is really tough. This is really rough. But in the midst of all that, it's actually empty. And the same is true of any mental or physical state that we find ourselves to be fixated on or grasping onto. It's much more impermanent than it is permanent. And actually, it's not permanent at all. But this is this is more of a teaching pointing to, at least for me, refreshing and restarting, beginning again. Okay, even though I have a hangover, to still be a good person, to still do good deeds, to still continue on my path, even though I'm in jail. Okay, that's no excuse. Keep going. Keep practicing, even though someone hates me or that I've messed up this relationship. Even though I've betrayed myself, continue, show up. Because if you don't practice in that way, if you don't see the emptiness of that effect, then you are going to be locked into that karma, that cause and effect. And you're going to be stuck in that real true person in a real true story. And that capacity to transform is not really going to be there. Now you need to be careful that you don't use this for spiritual bypassing, because we do want to take responsibility for what we are doing and have like a practical look at our lives and how we're managing things and how we're taking care of things. And that that takes a lot of at times a lot of complicated thinking. But the point is that we see the ultimate emptiness of all those things so that we can practice to abandon. We can practice to release our self-fixated perspective. And we can step into this way of, even though there's a hangover, doing only, waking up only, experiencing only, taking a bath only, going for a walk only, petting the cat only, being with our loved one only, in the midst of all this jazz that's going on. Yeah. So don't get stuck on cause and effect, but rather be aware of cause and effect, and face the effect and take responsibility for the cause. But understand that ultimately there's not a you in that. And that a particular place or a particular time or a particular condition that you find yourself in is ultimately not true or not real, not permanent. It's just like a created truth, an imagined truth. Yeah. But it's maybe the most simple way to understand it is that sometimes you wake up with a hangover. Don't let that hangover discourage you from doing good deeds and refreshing and restarting and getting out of bed. And recognize that that hangover, no matter how bad it is, no matter how real it is ultimately empty and is not something to become kind of believing in or fixated on. It's just a condition that arises and is certain to pass away. Okay, so let's enjoy to meditate together. Go ahead and get your body in a comfortable, stable position for meditation. It's definitely a good time to, you've been sitting still, then you can stretch just a little bit and find a fresh position for your body. If you're sitting in like an office chair, then you can, just kind of sit up somewhat straight, but also relaxed and have your feet on the floor. It's a good position to be in. Yeah, find a comfortable place to put your body down. And try to take a few deep breaths and breathe deeply in a way where you bring the mind home to the body. Bring your awareness, your presence, your sincerity home to the body. And let's take as our meditation instruction for this practice, um, the dialogue between Bodhidharma and Hui Kei. So Hui Kei said, "Your disciple's mind is not yet settled. Please, patriarch, great Zen master, settle the mind for me." Bodhidharma shouted, "Bring forth the mind. I will settle it for you." Dumbfounded, Hui Kei said, I cannot find the mind. Bodhidharma smiled and said, I have already settled the mind for you. Not finding, just sitting, breathing, aware. Okay, we can all bring our hands together, and at the sound of the bell, we can offer a deep bow to each other, to our practice, and especially to our continued aspiration to stay on the path and keep waking up, keep getting out of bed, and keep letting go. Let's bow at the sound of the bell. Thank you all so much for being here, for yourselves, for me, and for each other, and look forward to see you again further along on the path. Okay? Take care. And for all those YouTubers, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your mindfulness, your happiness, and your practice with all others.